This just in, a man called Yusuf in the small town of Boise has been seeing his girlfriend Rose for a very long time. Rose, unfortunately, has been seeing 4 other men on the sideline. In Uganda, we call them side dishes or side men for this matter. Yusuf has been seeing Rose for some time, and later on she got pregnant a while ago. Rose has now confided in Yusuf, telling him that, you know what, Yusuf, the child that I'm carrying is yours. Yusuf, on the other hand, after hearing of the extra affairs that Rose has been having, is doubting whether this child is his. Well, on this edition of Legal News Daily, we're going to have most of Yusuf's questions answered. Yusuf has funny questions like, can I even carry a DNA test in Uganda? What is the procedure for all of that? And in this edition of Legal News Daily, we're going to have Counsel Terry Kahuma, who is with us in the newsroom, going to break down for us what DNA test is, what parentage is, and what is the legal procedure for applying for parentage. And most importantly, we're going to have Counsel Terry Kahuma break down everything for us in the most legal way possible. So, welcome to this edition of Legal News Daily. Thank you so much for that thunderous welcome. Hello everyone. For purposes of the record, my name is Counsel Terry Kahuma, and I'm a lawyer of the High Court, an advocate, an office of the High Court, and all subordinate courts they are under in Uganda. Today, I've been given the chance to discuss what parentage is, what DNA is, and most importantly, what does the law say about DNA? Because there's been a lot of crazy frenzy about DNA. Should a man do DNA? What should happen if a man finds out about children not being his? Well, I'm here to discuss all of that. First of all, let us describe what's called DNA. Of course, the doctors have a very big term for what DNA is called, but it's basically your genes or genetical code of a human being. According to the Black's Law Dictionary, which is what us lawyers use to define everything, as they call us land fellows, DNA is, in more simplified terms, is the genetical code of every human being. So when they talk about DNA in the normal social terms, they mean what is the relationship between a father and a son, or a mother and a child. So DNA is not just for fathers, but it's also for mothers. Many times you can see that a child can be born by a mother in a hospital, and then some evil people go and switch up the baby in the baby nursery crib. You know that room where they normally have so many babies. So you can end up having a kid who is switched for yours, and you end up raising a kid who is not yours, but that's beside the point. Now, according to the eyes of the law, every man, especially men and women, all have a right to apply for a DNA test. Now, a DNA test in the law, we call it a right of parentage, meaning that this person has had some suspicions of his partner being or cheating or having a lot of infidelity around them, not being faithful. So they will have to apply to the High Court or to the court in general to have this child that is being claimed to have been his to be declared his or not. This person, especially the men, can apply to the court by way of an application for declaration of parentage. Now, you've had Terry Kahuma on this channel. I've watched his videos a number of times. So you've had him on this channel talking about maintenance, custody of children, family division. So when we say make an application to court, we mean make an application to the High Court Family Division or the Magistrates Court Family Division under the Children's Amendment Act of 2016. And in particular, declaration of parentage is moved under Section 67 of the Children Amendment Act of Uganda. Why do we have amendment? Because we originally had the Children's Act, and now the Children's Act was amended. So now we have the Children Amendment Act of 2016. That is beside the point. Under Section 67, we have a number of criteria that someone has to be able to do for a declaration of parentage. But most importantly, what the criteria looks at is that there should be specific people who should be able to apply for declaration of parentage. Let's go through all of them. Number 1, the father who is being alleged to be the father of a child. Let us now go back to the example of Mr. Yusuf. On Legal News Daily, I follow this show so much, and I heard the news anchor stating that Mr. Yusuf has been dating Rose for some time. Now, the best way we can help Mr. Yusuf is that since Rose, his girlfriend, has been having extra relationship affairs and is now telling Mr. Yusuf that this indeed is your son, or the child that I'm carrying is yours, then Mr. Yusuf is the one who is now declared to, or who is allowed to be able to apply for a declaration of parentage. So, number 1, like I said, we have the person, the father who is being alleged to be the said father of the child. Number 2, we have the actual father of the child. Let us assume that Mr. Yusuf in Boise is actually married to Rose, and let's assume, hypothetically, they have 4 children. Now, if the actual father of one of the children comes up, then Yusuf, being the purported father of the child, or being the father who has raised the child, also is entitled to carrying out a DNA test or applying for a declaration of parentage. Basically, like I've said, declaration of parentage is you're applying for a DNA test, like the way you normally see it on Kampala Road. You have people putting up a signpost. You cannot just go to them, or the best legal way to do it is to apply for declaration of parentage. They are declaring whether you're the father or not. So the people who are entitled to applying for declaration of parentage is the true father of the child, the purported father of the child, and the person claiming to be the father of the child. Also, in situations like I had explained before, the mother of the child can also do a DNA test on the child. Then we also have a guardian of the child. Many times we see children who have not been brought up by their parents, or they were abandoned on the street and someone picked up the kid. So if the true parents of the kid or the child now come and claim that we're the true parents of the child, then the guardian of the child, who has been taking care of the child as their parent, can also apply for a declaration of parentage to see whether indeed the people claiming to be the parents of the child are actually the child, and why did they abandon them in the first place. So they need to also do that. Then the child themselves can also apply for a declaration of parentage only with a friend of the court. A friend of court under civil procedure rules means that a child is a person who is below the age of 18 according to the Children's Act. So a friend of court is someone who is more mature than him, who can file a court petition, an application in court, or who can even sue on behalf of the child. Point to note is that a child cannot sue in court. A child does not have the power to sue, but a child can sue with a more mature person who can be able to stand in for the child until the child is old enough, who will attain the age of 18 years and above. So now that we have looked at all of that, we need to also ascertain what is the right procedure for application of declaration of parentage, and this is seen under Section 68 of the Children Amendment Act of 2016. So under Section 68, what are the circumstances under which one can be able to apply for a DNA test or a declaration of parentage? The main, just like Mr. Yusuf, I'm explaining to you all. Now, the circumstances under which you can apply for declaration under Section 68 of the Children Amendments Act are, number 1, when a mother is pregnant, or when the person who is carrying the child is pregnant. I think this applies to Mr. Yusuf himself. Rose is now pregnant for Yusuf's child, and they've been now put on TV because it's a very embarrassing thing. She had 4 men who she was in an affair with, and now no one knows who the actual father is. So one of the circumstances is that you can apply for a DNA test even when the mother is still carrying the child who she's claiming you are the father of. Number 2, any time, and I say this again, any time before the child reaches 18 years of age. Why is this very important? Because the law is kind of very new to Uganda. And so many families have had situations where, let's say in your grandfather's home, he had about 3 wives or 4 wives, and along the way, these ladies ended up bringing in or sneaking in a child. In the common talk, we have what's called DNA suspect. So they must have sneaked in a DNA suspect, and back then there was no DNA or way of describing what a DNA test was. Back then they used to look at maybe, okay, bring the child, he has our brother's hands, he has his nails, so those, I'm speaking in third party, those would be the sisters who would be trying to look at whether the child resembles you. But that was a very vague way of doing things. Now we have science, but science can always be backed up by the law. So what Yusuf can do is apply for the declaration of parentage before the child is born, or that's also when the mother is still pregnant. Number 2, like I've said, is before the child reaches 18 years of age. Now, number 3 is one of the most weird of them all. If the father died, the true father of the child, and let's say his family has come to the home of Mr. Yusuf. Let's say among all of these 4 men who Rose was sleeping with, if one of the 4 men died and his family found out that he impregnated Rose, who was already in a relationship with Yusuf, his family can come and still apply for declaration of parentage, but that can only take place before before the death of one of the 4 men reaches 3 years. So meaning the true father of the kid must not have died for more than 3 years. So these are the circumstances under which one can be able to apply for a declaration of parentage. Number one, the mother should be pregnant. The kid should not be above 18 years of age, and also the true father of the child, or one of the purported fathers of the child, should not have exceeded 3 years after they have died. So you may be asking, what is the proof for declaration of parentage? We have under Section 70, still of the Children Amendments Act, we have that the burden of proof of declaration of parentage should be on the person alleging. So back to the situation of Yusuf and Rose. Yusuf was seeing Rose, and these other 4 men were also seeing Rose. So if the 4 men are now claiming to have seen, to be the father of these children, then it's the burden of proof is on the 4 men to incur the costs of declaration of parentage, to incur the court procedures, the court filing processes of the application, and also, most importantly, they'll have to all pay for the DNA test. Now, the court looks at the different ways in which you can prove whether a child is yours. We have it in the normal scientific methods. The court's best, the best way the court can now help you is just to make an order for a declaration of parentage. Now, after the application has been done and everything, you've filed a normal application in court for a DNA test, the judge or the registrar is going to look at the facts of the case, how old is the child, and most importantly, under Section 68, the judge must always look at the best interest of the child, the welfare of the child. How is this going to affect the child? How old is the child? What is the sex of the child? All of that is considered, because they don't just grant you an application for declaration of parentage or an application for DNA as we normally know it. So under Section 70, I say the burden of proof lies on the person who is alleging that this child is mine. So the judge, after looking at all the paperwork and the welfare of the child, then the judge is going to it will grant an order for declaration of parentage or a DNA test. And might I just reiterate for you, every time a judge makes an order, you cannot refuse, because it is an order given by court, and the judiciary must be respected. So if a stubborn mother, let's say Rose, if Rose has been given an order to do a DNA test on her child, then if she refuses, then she can actually be held for contempt of court and evasion of justice, and she can even be put in jail just for that. So she must respect any order that's given by a judge, must be respected by court. So I wanted to give you a brief insight on DNA tests. What should one do in order to apply for DNA test? For the wayward fathers, I know many of you may have made many women pregnant, and for the fathers who have been in marriages where the woman ends up sneaking in a DNA suspect, I'm so sorry for that. But most importantly, you should know that if you've raised these children from 0 to around 17 years, then you have just a few months to apply for a DNA test. And unfortunately, it may destroy your family, but that's what the law has for you. Those are the remedies. So thank you so much for hosting me on Legal News Daily, Mr. Anchor. And I would love to appear on this show once again. I hope everyone was able to understand everything from a lawyer's point of view. Until next time, I hope to be hosted on Legal News Daily. And for, most importantly, Mr. Yusuf, my heart goes out to you. I hope you can be able to apply a formal application to court, the family division. And let's pray that the judge or registrar is able to grant you the order for declaration of parentage or DNA test. And you'll be able to carry out a DNA test on the child who Rose claims is yours. Until next time, I guess I'll see you next time. Until next time, bye.